Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a mystery that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but for hundreds of government officials, it's terrifyingly real. Havana Syndrome.
Just imagine for a second. You're somewhere you're supposed to be safe. Your home, your office, and then bam, you're hit by this unseen, agonizing force. US and Canadian diplomats described it as this intense, targeted beam of energy, a silent assault from a source they couldn't see. So how in the world do we even start to unravel this? Well, we'll begin where it all started, with those first mysterious illnesses. Then, we're going to explore the leading theory, this idea of an invisible weapon. We'll look at other potential causes, and then we'll get into the very real, human cost of this whole unresolved mystery.
Right, so it all began not with a bang, but with this really bizarre, localized sensation that just seemed to defy any logical explanation. The symptoms were just surreal. People reported this intense pressure, a piercing sound that seemed to come from one direction, a sound that could go through walls but would vanish if you just moved a few feet. But here's the thing, this wasn't psychological. The key piece of evidence, the smoking gun really, came from MRI scans, which showed actual, tangible, long-term damage to the brain.
And this wasn't just some strange thing happening in Cuba. The phenomenon just exploded. It went global. From China to Russia, US officials in some really high-stakes places started reporting the exact same terrifying symptoms. And then it hit home. Incidents were reported right next to the White House. This turned a strange illness into a direct threat right on US soil.
Okay, so what could possibly cause such specific and bizarre symptoms in all these different corners of the world? Well, the investigation started to zero in on a deeply unsettling possibility, a new kind of invisible weapon.
The leading theory points to directed energy, basically a microwave weapon. Try to picture a weapon that fires an invisible, focused beam of energy that can go straight through walls to hit a specific person inside. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
This is what explains the strangest symptom of all, that sound. It's something called the Frey effect. It was actually discovered decades ago, and it proves that microwave pulses can literally make your brain tissue vibrate, creating a sound that only you can hear because it's being generated inside your head. Wild, right?
So the takeaway here is that the tech for this isn't just some theory. It's a known fact that countries, including the US and Russia, have researched it. You could have a portable device, aim it at a building, have the beam penetrate walls, and use that energy to directly injure a person's brain, causing the exact symptoms these victims reported.
But look, to be thorough, investigators had to rule out other things. So what other theories were even on the table?
And this is pretty much why all those other theories just fall short. Mass hysteria doesn't cause physical brain damage you can see on a scan. Pesticides or some local insect can't possibly explain the global pattern of these incidents. None of the other ideas could account for all the evidence, especially that combination of physical injury and the targeted international scope.
So while the scientific evidence was pointing in one clear direction, the official government response became this maze of conflicting reports, and that left the victims trapped in this painful, frustrating limbo.
And right here, this is the core of the controversy. On one hand, in 2020, you have a top scientific panel saying microwave energy is the most plausible cause. Then, just 2 years later, the CIA comes out and says it's unlikely a foreign power was responsible. I mean, that kind of official whiplash left victims feeling completely abandoned and, frankly, discredited.
And while the agencies were debating, the number of victims just kept growing. We are not talking about a small-scale incident here. More than 1,500 U.S. government employees and their families have come forward with these same disturbing health issues.
For these people, it's basically a life sentence. We're talking chronic pain, cognitive issues, and the psychological trauma of being invisibly assaulted. As one victim, Mark Lindsay, put it, they're suffering from career-ending, life-altering injuries, all while their own government was questioning if it was even real.
This whole mystery, it really forces us to zoom out and look at a much bigger picture. One that might just redefine the nature of modern warfare itself.
So we have to ask this deeply unsettling question. If these are attacks, what's the goal? I mean, is it to disable key people? To disrupt intel operations? Or is it something even more insidious? To just sow chaos and fear without ever having to fire a single shot? Think about it. If these are weapons, they are a perfect tool for modern conflict. They're completely deniable, no bullets, no fragments, zero proof. They are terrifyingly covert, and they can disable a target without actually killing them, which helps avoid the political fallout of an assassination. This is the very definition of gray zone warfare.
So here's where we are. What we know for a fact is this. Real people suffered real, documented brain injuries. We know their symptoms line up perfectly with the known effects of microwave energy. And we know the technology to build a weapon like this exists. The only things we don't know are the final pieces of the puzzle. Who pulled the trigger, and what exactly did they pull the trigger on?
And this leaves us with one last, really chilling thought. If a diplomat in a secure embassy or an agent near the White House can be attacked without leaving a trace, what does that mean for the rest of us? The Havana Syndrome mystery isn't just about spies and diplomats anymore. It's a quiet warning that the very rules of conflict may have already changed.